Hey family, it's your girl, she rambles, and welcome to the Midweek Ramble. And here we are continuing our conversation from our Motivational Monday Healing Together series with Mr. Coach O Speaks himself, my mia, my mia, my mia. And we are continuing with uncomfortable conversations, but a stronger marriage. Proverbs 15:1 tells us simply, a soft answer turns away wrath. Okay, welcome back, family. We're going to just get right into it. The uncomfortable conversations. We get together, the nostalgia's in the air. If this is a reunited for you, if it's a first time for you, you feel them love bug. It's just all over you when love calls your name, like Kim says, ain't nothing you can do about that thing. So you're feeling all good and lovely. Y'all have moved in with each other. Y'all have married, whatever the situation may be. But I've been told by my mama that, you don't know somebody till you live with them. So now we're in the same space. You like certain things a certain way, and I like things a certain way. And the little things, in the beginning, oh, it's okay, honey, it's okay, da da da. You start doing things for one another and things like that, and the other might get used to those things that you're doing. And as time goes on, as life continues to life, those things kind of dwindle away because other things take priority, and it's not necessarily something that you're neglecting to do on purpose. It's just life is doing what it's doing and you are concentrated on other things. Now there's a tiny little resentment that may come into play, or the person may be afraid to express how they feel about the change that has happened. Another thing my mom tells me is that you got to always know that in life, change is very constant. That is the most faithful thing that you will experience in this life experience is change. Now, change comes about. Some people let it fester and grow into a cancer in their relationship. And by the time they address it, the damage has been done. It's metastasized. It's all through the body, it's all through the relationship, and it has destroyed the relationship, and there is no cure or treatment for it. Now, we're talking about the seven principles for making marriage work by Dr. John M. Gottman and Nan Silver. And we talked about the story of Olivia and Nate having the secret weapon because, they built their foundation on friendship and feeling the escalation of a petty little argument happening. They have a little thing that they do with one another that they stick out their tongue and just do something silly to kind of bring them back to, kind of the surface. Like, all right, let's come back. Let's come back. Now, the strength of your marital friendship determines the success of the repair attempt. When you're doing the secret weapon or the silly thing or whatever you're doing, the strength of that friendship has to be strong. Because if y'all built some stuff on some weak stuff, or you ain't even friends at all, you know, when you're in a heated moment, because there are a lot of people, they'll tell you with their own lips that they go 0 to 100 real quick. And if you're one of those people, me being silly in the middle of you being pissed off is not going to help the situation. Now remember that even if you do have a solid foundation, a solid friendship, y'all think y'all all good is whatever, always know that the relationship is a muscle and it has to be strengthened. So you still have to work at strengthening that relationship so that it can remain solid. A lot of times we get in relationships and we feel like, hey, this is my best friend. I don't really got to do much, or I love her. She knows I love her. I don't got to do the flower thing no more. I don't got to do all that stuff that I was doing in the beginning. But I've heard the old folks say that, brother, what you did together, you got to do to keep her. And that's the same for our females out there as well. Now, marriage failures are usually due to not supporting each other's hopes, aspirations, or building a sense of purpose in the lives that you all share together. There's no honor, there's no respect for one another. And if it's already there in the at the front of the gate, um, you know, it's kind of doomsday from there because respect, honor. Now, if you respect someone, there's a level of humility, there's a level of there's a line, that you just won't cross because you have such a deep respect for that person, or you honor what you all have. You won't go there, you know simply put. Now, if this is not practice, you supporting one another, honoring each other, respecting one another, that's when those endless and useless rounds of petty little arguments come into play, and someone or both of you start feeling isolated, and loneliness does take over. And that is kind of sort of the demise there of the relationship. Now, on page 28, if you get the book, it's titled "The Purpose of Marriage." Now, in the strongest marriages, says the book, husband and wife share a deep sense of meaning, like, for real, when you think about relationships. Now, when I was out there in them streets, honey, no, I'm just playing. When I was out there, sort of dating or whatever the case is, not really dating because I can't even really say I've dated. I've just been in relationships. When one end, I'm kind of in the next one because I kind of did not have uh, a healthy version of relationship, or a healthy model per se of relationships, so I kind of just did my own thing, and once I started to go on my healing journey, I started to see that I was just filling in the space because, once you're not in a relationship with the person, whether it was a bad one, good one, once you get alone, them voices get real loud, really loud, and you don't want to hear them. You're just not ready. And so you go to the next relationship thinking that that will quiet the noise, and all you're doing is bringing baggage into the next relationship. And that is one of those key fights, is that you come in just freshly bruised out of battle, and then you're coming into this safe space, but you can't recognize it as that, because if there's anything that even remotely reminds you, the color on the wall reminds you of the last relationship, you're triggered without even knowing that you are triggered, you know? So when you get in these relationships, not to say that coming out of a bad relationship that you can get into another relationship, of course you can. However, it's, what is the meaning? When you meet this person, what is the goal? And we don't really have these conversations, and sit down and really speak. I mean, we don't court, we don't really date like that anymore. You hear people say, dating is ghetto and dating is crazy, and especially with all these apps and things, people hiding behind screens and telling you they one person, and you meet them and they somebody else. Lord have mercy. So in these strong marriages where the husband and wife share this deep sense of meaning, once you find out what that is, they don't just get along, they also support those hopes and aspirations that we were talking about earlier. Now, very often a marriage fails due to not doing those things, like we said. You know, you have to have a solid foundation, a solid friendship, and an understanding of, you know, what you all are coming into the relationship with. I mean, again, we're not perfect beings. We're not gonna all come in here just all healed and I'm just joy. No, we're all on the journey of healing, because healing is not nothing that's microwavable. It's not a button you press and boom, 30 seconds, it's over. You know, there are deep seated hidden issues that fuel superficial conflicts and make them far more intense and hurtful than they would otherwise be. You know what I'm saying? Some, like I said in our Monday session, is that, sometimes one doesn't even think that they have been through anything traumatic that would, um I think it's the stigma of being labeled trauma but it's traumatic or whatever, but it's not, there is no stigma. That is not a word, that is not a pariah. So you're not being singled out. We have all at some point had some type of traumatic experience. Like my husband said, you know, if you have experienced anything that have affected you spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, it can be it can register as a traumatic situation or event in your body, in your life, in your memory. And just because you suppressed it or you, oh well, you know, that's how it is, you know, and then you step on it and you carry on with your life, that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you in any way. I mean, if you grew up in a household where your parents constantly yelled instead of spoke to you, or just kept dismissing you, now when you get older, you see the pattern with your own children that you kind of do the same thing too, or you're overbearing. That has something to do with your past. And just because you realize that something is traumatic, it's just like with the yelling, and you have a spouse that starts yelling and you don't understand why you feel like you got to stand up like Mike Tyson, be ready to box somebody. It's because you have that defense up because you was yelled at all the time. So when you don't recognize that you have trauma, that's one argument right there. You know, a person is telling you, "Yo, every time I even my voice even go up an octave, you out here bugging." I was just trying to say something because you know we're kind of animated when we talk as humans sometimes, and it's not necessarily a yell, but it could register like that in your psyche. You know, because it's deep seated, it's deep up in there. And this person say, "Hey, no, I'm not. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't saying anything like that to you." And you're just like, "Yeah, you were yelling. You were." So that's why it's like you take the breath, you know, and we honor, we respect one another. And hey, we listen and we don't judge. I hear you, babe. And I've started to realize that that has been a pattern. And I think it's way deeper than that, baby. Do you want to talk about it, you know, and sit down and you all can find a way to talk about it, meditate, pray, or something, and try to dig deep and see what that is, because that's when we go back to the story of Olivia and Nathan when they were arguing about a car, you know, what type of car to get. And they were getting so heated that it was just getting so loud up in there. You had to break up the damn thing by doing something silly. Just like, let me break. This is petty. And sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes once a person is going, they have to get that last word in, and they are huffing, they're puffing, your heart rate is out of control, and you got to say what you got to say. And that's deep seated. It's very deep seated. By fighting over the differences or these differences, personality, lifestyle, your values are different. That's usually the fundamental differences that we fight about, especially in the beginning of a relationship. But by fighting about these things, all they succeed in doing is wasting your time and harming your marriage. Instead, you need to understand the bottom line difference that is causing the conflict and to learn how to live with it by honoring and respecting one another. Yesterday, we talked about a sensitive topic. Me and my husband, y'all not blind, we are an interracial couple. And we would be remiss to act like that is not a thing, that's not an argument. And before anybody can let their minds go anywhere else, it's not about a prejudice thing or anything like that. Oh, he's out here calling me out of my name. No, we're not talking about that. Not at all. It's just we are two people. It's just like man, woman. I mean, we could be two black people in a relationship, but we're raised in two separate households. Your household may believe in spanking, and you may want to take on that type of discipline for your children. Well, your spouse is like, nope, we didn't have that. We talked in our house. And that could be a clash. In our relationship, the clash that we had on the other day was, it happened to be something about race. I was expressing myself about my black experience, or the experience, it's just a black experience, period. And how, you know, it is made to believe that we're just out here complaining, you know. And alluded it to the whole NFL thing. Just go watch the episode, and then it kind of went. It didn't really go left per se, but it was a disagreement. And again, we got to understand that disagreement does not mean the end of the world. You know, in agreement, that means we're all believing the same thing. We can say, yeah, yeah, I agree that the sky is blue. Yeah, yeah, I see it. I may think it's a different shade of blue, but we can all agree that it's overall blue. But if somebody says, nah, I see that thing is pink, and that person is disagreeing. Okay. And so a long time ago in previous relationships, I was, I guess, led to believe over time that when you're having a conversation with your loved one, your spouse, whatever, you have to agree by the end of the conversation. I just always had that in my mind. I have no idea why. I believe it's in the past, seeing previous relationships in my life from family and seeing them, whatever. So I would always get upset when the person would not agree. And then I was taught that, we're going to have to just agree to disagree. I'm like, what does that mean? you know, and then I was like, that's so dumb. But then I thought about it because I'm a wordsmith person. So I had to just go and stop, calm down and say, okay, agree. We have to agree that we disagree. I think the word that need to be up in there. We need to agree that we disagree. Because you say agree to disagree, and we're like, huh? So I was like, all right, I can get that because again, I still have my perspective and you still have your perspective. Just because I have a perspective does not necessarily mean I'm trying to change your mind about my perspective. And when we later calmed down and talked about the situation later, I listened to his point of view and I let him know that yes, that is also true, and what I'm saying is also true. Two things can be in the same space, and it was resolved and we were fine, and like I said, you just got to take a breather sometimes because we can be very strong and passionate about the things that we believe in, and sometimes we don't stop and listen to the other perspective because that is the issue overall everywhere in every conversation. Especially you hear a lot of people, you will come across a lot of people that will tell you they will not speak about religion, politics. They won't do it because they know they're not able to. I think it's a level of emotional intelligence, honestly. And that's not saying nobody's dumb out here because everybody, when they hear the word intelligence, they go loopy with it. But it's a level of emotional intelligence. You don't feel that you can get your point across when someone is opposing you, you know? And that's why, going back to the intro, a soft answer turneth away wrath. I think it's just a matter of coming to the table and all of us sitting down and getting our point across. Yes, some people will speak more passionately and animated more than others. That should not be looked at as an intimidation. That's just the way I talk, and that is the way I deliver what I'm saying. When you see someone that's doing ASL, especially remember I went to a concert and they were not a concert, but it was a comedy show, but they were playing music before the comedian came out, and then there was an interpreter over there killing it on the ASL, you know, um, letting them know what music was being played, and it looked aggressive. If you look at it, it was looking real aggressive, but that's how they had to deliver the the ASL to the recipients. So, we all have different communication styles. We all have different perspectives. And I think that we just need to pause and allow grace. And if we honor and respect one another, we have to stop being dismissive. And I get when you're in a conversation and it gets heated and things like that, and you're trying to get your point across and things like that, and the person that feels um, unprepared. It's kind of like coming to a debate and you don't have them cue cards. That's kind of how my husband feels sometimes because I'm very just real passionate when I'm going in. And he just, if I keep on saying my perspective, he will not continue with his because he feels that up is going that way. I'm not even gonna say nothing because you're saying I'm wrong, and I'm like, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just still standing on my business, and you have to still stand on yours. And I can understand how he can see that, it feels like I was dismissing him, but that was not it. But again, these are things that you learn as you go in a relationship, that you learn how one another talks. You learn the things that make them tick and the things that, um, move them, like I speak about music all the time. Like I can go into music and it's like I'm on a journey like never. I I listen to music like you read the never ending story and experience it. If I'm sorry if you're too young to know what never ending story is, but go Google it. But yes, that's how I do with music. I am all in it, honey. I feel every word, every lyric. I am just there. It's amazing. So we again have honor and respect for one another, and you got to check it. The song say check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check the relationship that you in, and scripture will tell you that you need to test the spirit of your relationship and see if what foundation is your foundation quicksand or is it really concrete. you know are you floating on the river with the anaconda under your feet? What are y'all doing? Have you all had those conversations? Is there something that you need to say? Because you got to say what you need to say. You can't hold it. Don't hold it and wait until it festers and festers. And by the time you deliver it, you're going to say it so nasty because you're tired of it. You have to say what you need to say when something bothers you, when something, and if you're intimidated by your spouse, or not really them, but intimidated by the way they deliver or the way they speak, I mean, find another avenue to saying their communication is not only words. Communication, you could write, you could journal. Like I said, me and my husband, we have a journal. We haven't used it lately, but we have journals by each other's bedside. And if we get to the point where we feel like we can't say it with words, we're going to put it in that journal. When we first started, it was kind of like play or whatever, but we haven't gotten to the point where we can't really talk about something. We can cool down and talk. But hey, it's an avenue there. There is an app called Marco Polo. You can get on Marco Polo, and it is like a FaceTime, but the other person can't say jack. They're saying stuff on the other side if they watch it live, or if they go back and watch it for watch the video later, but you can't hear it, and you can get out everything that you need to say. Because I understand, sometimes it's not really about us being rude or anything like that. It's like you just want to try to get it's defensive. It depends on how the person come at you, and you're like, oh hell, I did not do that. And they're like, no, 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 wait a minute, I let you talk. And then just them saying that set you off, and then y'all start unraveling on the petty stuff, on the how it was said, who said what, don't talk to me like that, da 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 da. And that's why it's, if you can calm down and structure it in a better way and approach it a better way, and just let them know from the gate that you feel something from something that was said. Not I you know what I'm saying, you always just, when you say you, it's just automatically making the person feel defensive, and they're going to defend themselves, especially when they're not doing what you're saying. So journal if you can, write a letter, put it in his lunchbox, her lunchbox, text it. Text is kind of weird. Let me take that one back. Texting is kind of weird because it can be misinterpreted. So use the voice feature. Every phone has it, even them damn Androids. Okay, but use your text to voice feature, and give your emotion. The Marco Polo is good because the emotion can be said on it could be shown on your face. That way notes can be taken and things like that. Or if you do the journal, you write what you got to say and you put it on their side of the bed. They will read and respond through the journal. So there are many ways to communicate, many ways to skin a cat. So don't allow your relationship to start off with a little scab, a little scrape on your knee, and let it turn into a cancer that, oh Lord, I can't say a Haitian word. My Haitian tongue, metastasize, and affect your relationship in such a way that it is so damaged that there is no cure. You can communicate. You can communicate, because if you built it on honor, if you build it with respect, the moment you stop honoring each other, the moment you can't respect one another, you can go ahead and hang it up, because It's just not there anymore. So check your relationship, see where you are, see what foundation you are all building on. Are you all friends? Do you have a friendship? If you can't say it, write it down. You can't write it down. You feel like it sounds crazy and you wrote it, write it, ball it up, and put it in the fire and put it and throw it away like that. But then you find another way to communicate. Send it through a voice feature on your phone. Send it on a Marco Polo, or send it on their journal and just talk, or get a mediator involved. That person that you can trust. Now, don't be out here talking to your single friends. They cannot help you. Okay? Not them single bitter sisters in the corner, all mad and stuff. Don't do that. Don't do that. Speak to someone that's going through the same thing. You know, the couples. Older couples in your church community, in your community period, and within your family, if you have, you know, the model of the auntie and uncle or whoever that might have been together for some years. Some cultures won't tell you nothing until you come ask for it. We got to seek for that knowledge from the elders, because they know that this generation, these kids think they know everything. So they're not going to offer nothing up like they used to. So you got to go seek that. And trust me, they're waiting to give you those jewels. Trust me, the things that you think that you're going through alone, you go ask that auntie and she'll tell you how much Uncle Bob done cheated on her, and you would be surprised. You'd be like, wow, I didn't even know that. Y'all just so solid, y'all so cute and solid. And they will give you the tools to let you know how they did it. Communicate, honor each other, respect one another, love one another, have those conversations, receive what was being said, and still love each other at the end of the conversation. Build that strong marriage so it can be solid as a rock. Peace.